Sitaram Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Ananta Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Nataraja Ki, Gaura Premanande. All glories to the Devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Sakalantikam Chakapatirubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Takanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. We're discussing Sita and Rama in the hearts of the devotees. I want to welcome you back, those of you who are coming back from yesterday, and welcome to those of you who just arrived. And I want to back up a little bit from where we stopped yesterday for just a few moments to the ashram of Vishwamitra, where Vishwamitra is together with Rama and Lakshmana, and Rama and Lakshmana have been sleeping, getting some rest. And Vishwamitra looks at Rama as he's sleeping, and he is completely charmed by his countenance, his face, his appearance. And it's time for Rama to wake up. And so he wakes him up, and he wakes him with the following mantra. And this is a famous mantra, and you may like to, we can chant this together. No, that's not the mantra. Hare Krishna, welcome. We're just about to chant a mantra which Vishwamitra chants to awaken Lord Rama. And it goes like this. Kausalya supraja Rama purva sandhya pravartate utishta narasardula kartavyam daivamahnikam. Alright, let's go through this slowly. Kaushalya, Supraja, Rama, Kaushalya, Supraja, Rama. So, Kaushalya, who is Kaushalya? The mother of Rama. And Supraja means the son of Kaushalya. So, O Rama, who is the son of Kaushalya, Purva Sandhya Pravartate, Purva Sandhya Pravartate. Purva means? Yeah, it means early or before. So it's, and Sandhya? Sandhya means a transition. So it's the morning transition. So it's, in other words, sunrise. Purva Sandhya. Pravartate is happening. Purva Sandhya Pravartate. Kaushalya Supraja Rama. Purva Sandhya Pravartate. Uttishta. What means Uttishta? Get up. Yes. Stand, literally stand up. Narasardula. A sardula is a lion. So a lion among men, or human lion. Oh, lion among men, get up. Wake up. Kartavyam daivam ahnikam. Kartavyam daivam ahnikam. Kartavyam means duties. And daivam means transcendental. And ahnikam means morning. Kartavyam daivam ahnikam. 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 Uttishta narasardula. Kartavyam daivam ahnikam. Kaushalya Supraja Rama. Purva Sandhya Pravartate. Uttishta narasardula. Kartavyam daivam ahnikam. Now, what kind of religion is this where we wake up God? Huh? Very strange religion. Very nice religion. Does God ever sleep? Yes? Who says yes? God sleeps. Okay, who says God doesn't sleep? You're both right. God sleeps and doesn't sleep. Actually, we are presently in it's the first month of Chaturmasya, isn't it? So this means the 4 months of the year when God goes to sleep. He sleeps 4 months of the year, imagine that.
He'll be a bear in his next life.
He'll be a bear in his next life. Krishna. Anyway. Okay, yesterday we heard about Rama and Sita seeing each other for the first time in Mithila. This is all, as we discussed yesterday, according to Tulsidas, his version of Ramayana called the Ramcharitmanas. And one thing I didn't mention yesterday in this regard is that Tulsidas is regarded by some as a reincarnation of Valmiki. So we heard also Praladanandan Swami read, quoting Srila Prabhupada, his pointing out the difference between the Valmiki Ramayana and the Tulsi Ramayana or Ramcharitmanas. In any case, Tulsidas is giving his vision, we can say, of the pastimes of Rama and Sita and all the associates. And as I also mentioned, he is doing this in a very richly poetic way, and in the writing of poetry or drama, according to Rupa Goswami, it is allowed to make some adjustment of Shastra for the sake of rasa. So that's what Tulsidas is doing. And in a moment I will read a section in which Sita is speaking. And I checked with the Valmiki Ramayana. There's absolutely no mention of Sita, of her. Actually, she's praying silently, but there's no mention of that in Valmiki Ramayana. So we get some, I think we can say, rich details, which we do not find in Valmiki Ramayana. The folks, the people of Mithila are already speaking about Sita and Ram as it looks like they would be a perfect couple. The talk has spread. The Gramya Katha of Mithila is very nice Gramya Katha. As everyone is talking about Sita and Ram. That's the gossip. And some are saying this is a wonderful thing, they're going to be married, no doubt. And others are saying, no, it's not possible. Why is it not possible? Because Janaka has made this condition that the person to win the hand of Sita has to prove himself by lifting this impossibly heavy bow of Shiva. And everybody agrees, this is impossible, nobody can do this. So what's the point? So some people have great doubts, and others say, no, it's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So we're still in the Balakanda here, the first of the 7 Kandas sections of the both Valmiki Ramayana and Ramcharitmanas. And here it says, Siya Bhyahavi Rama Garabaduri Kari Nipannake Jitiko Shaka Sangrama Dasarata Kerana Bankure. This is, as we explained yesterday, in the Avadi dialect of Hindi. Some of the citizens are saying, Rama will certainly marry Sita to the discomfiture, to the pain of these arrogant princes, or the embarrassment. For who can conquer in battle the valiant sons of Dasharatha? So that's the confident side. These are the ones who say, yes, it's going to happen. in Avadi, in this language, Sita becomes Siya. Siya. Siya Ram. Siya Ram. Jai Jai Siya Ram. So these who are speaking confidently that this is going to happen, this marriage, they elaborate, they say, don't brag and throw away your lives in vain. Hunger cannot be satiated, cannot be satisfied with imaginary sweets. Listen to this, my most salutary advice. Salutary means purifying, health-giving. Be inwardly assured that Sita is no other than the mother of the universe, and recognizing the Lord of Raghus as the father of the universe. Feast your eyes to their fill on his beauty. Fountains of joy and embodiments of all virtues, these two charming brothers have their abodes in Shambhu's hearts. This is referring to Rama and Lakshmana, of course. And Shambhu is Shiva. Now and then they will refer to Rama and Lakshmana as being very dear to Shambhu. So we understand from Bhagavatam that the best of devotees of Lord Krishna is Shambhu. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. So we're speaking of Sita and Rama in the heart of the devotees. So the original devotee in whose heart they are present, we can say, is Lord Shiva. So that's very nice. It says Jagadamba Janahu Jiya Sita. There the word Sita is given. Jagata Pita Raghupati Hi Bichari. So Sita is the mother of the universe and Rama is the father of the universe. So this is the identification given of them. So considering who they are, they're very confident that this marriage is going to take place. Well, Tulsidas loves to dwell on the beauty of Sita and the charm of Rama. So here's more about Sita's beauty. Do you want to hear more about Sita's beauty?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's the same problem as before. Yesterday, there was a problem of comparing her face to the moon. Remember, Rama was condemning the moon, saying this moon, no comparison. So here's more problem because poets are interested in comparisons. All comparisons seem to me too poor, for they have affinity with the limbs of mortal women. To depict Sita with the help of those very similes, those comparisons, why should one earn the title of an unworthy poet and thus court ill repute? In other words, why get a bad reputation? You're trying to be a poet and you're making bad comparisons. It's a bad idea. And then he gives some examples of bad comparisons. The goddess of speech, Saraswati, for example, is a chatterer. Chatterer means someone who talks a lot. Jabber, 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 jabber. Goddess of speech, right? What does the goddess of speech do? She talks a lot. While Bhavani, the wife of Shiva, possesses only half a body. What does that mean? There is a form of Shiva called Ardhanarishvara. He who has as half of his body a woman, Nari. There are many images in India. This iconography is there since many centuries. So, this, the wife of Shiva, she has only half a body. Can't compare her. And Rati? Who is Rati? Yes, the wife of Kamadeva is extremely distressed by the thought of her husband being without a form. Kamadeva was the victim of Lord Shiva's anger. He was burned to ashes, or not even ashes. And so he became known as Ananga, he who has no body. Of course, the result is that Kamadeva, having no body, enters into every body. And therefore every body experiences lust, kama, right? Anyway, so Rati can't compare to Rati. She's always in anxiety because her husband's gone. And it is quite out of the question to compare Videha's daughter, who is that referring to? Sita, with Rama. This is with a long A at the end. This is another name for Durga or Parvati, who has poison and spirituous liquor for her dear brothers. We mentioned this yesterday. The moon has also poison as a brother. Why is that? Because they're both born from the ocean. When the ocean was churned by the demons and the demigods, so many products came out. First came poison, eventually came the moon. That makes them brothers. Similarly, Lakshmi appeared from the churning of the ocean of milk. And so she is a sister of the moon and a brother of poison. And what else came out of this churning was some I don't know what kind of liquor. Vodka, maybe. So all of these brothers and sisters, according to the poet, disqualify them to be compared to Sita. So like this, there's more and more praise of the beauty of Sita. Well, remember, yesterday we heard also about Rama entering into the arena where this Swayamvara is going to take place. So we're still in these moments after he has appeared on the scene. And there's all this discussion, what's going to happen. Now people are regarding, they're seeing Rama and Sita, and they're quite overwhelmed by this beauty. And now the public are expressing their impatience with Rama. With Janaka, with King Janaka. they see Sita and they see Rama and they say, perfect pair, let them be married. But this stupid Janaka, he has made this rule that only someone can win Sita if he lifts that bow. Who can possibly lift that bow? It takes 3,000 people even to roll the cart in. It's crazy. I mean, what's wrong with him? And here's this young boy, he's only 16 years old. So, they say, Haru bidivegi Janaka jaratayi mati hamari asidehi suhayi bino bichara panutaji naranahu siyarama karakarai bibahu. Quickly, take away, O Creator, Janaka's stupidity. So they're praying to Lord Brahma. And give him right understanding, like ours, so that the king, without the least scruple, the least hesitation, may abandon his vow and give Sita in marriage to Rama. Siyaram karakarai bibahu. The world will speak well of him, of Janaka, and the idea will find favor with all. In other words, his reputation will not be spoiled just because he's giving up that vow. Everyone will agree, no, it's okay. On the other hand, if he persists in this folly, he shall have to regret it in the end. Everyone is absorbed in the ardent feeling that the dark-complexioned youth is a suitable match for Janaka's daughter. So their mood is, let them just, be engaged, forget about this silly test of lifting this, doing this impossible deed. But, of course, Janaka will not be changed. His mind will not be changed. So there's a lot of discussion about this. I'm skipping forward because I want to focus on Sita and Rama. There are a lot of kings present at this Swayamvara, and they all have hopes of winning Sita, right? They're all, even though they know they can't lift this this bow, they have this mad idea that somehow or other, maybe they can do it as a group. And the people, the public, they are praying to Ganesha. Oh Lord Ganesha, may Rama snap the bow of Shiva as it were a lotus stalk. I mentioned this yesterday also. In the Valmiki Ramayana, the test that Janaka Raja gives is to lift and string the bow. The test in Tulsi Ramayana is to break the bow. Well, in the Valmiki Ramayana, Lord Ram lifts the bow, he strings the bow, and then he takes an arrow, and as he's about to shoot the arrow, the bow breaks. But for Tulsi, this is all too complicated. It's just about breaking the bow for him. All right. Now, the mother of Sita, well, she's referred to as her mother, but of course Sita is actually a foster child of Janaka and forget her name, her mother. But anyway, she is expressing doubt that Rama can do the needful. But she has some friends around her, and they are not so doubtful. One of them says, "The glorious are not to be lightly regarded, O Queen." And then she gives some examples to make her point. What comparison is there between the sage Agastya, who was born in a jar, and the vast ocean? Yet, the sage Agastya drained the ocean dry, and his good fame has spread throughout the world. So that's one example. The orb, here's the next. The orb of the sun, the planet, the sphere of the sun, is so small to look at. But the moment it rises, the darkness of all the three worlds disappears. So in other words, things that appear small or insignificant can actually be very powerful. So she's anticipating. Even though Rama may appear of ordinary size and strength, actually he is not. Another example. A sacred formula, a mantra, is very small. Although it has under its sway, under its control, Brahma, Hari, Hara, and all other gods. So in other words, you may chant a mantra which is praising and thus controlling Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. Another example. A tiny goad, a stick, governs the mightiest and most furious elephant. So, have you ever seen this? In India, you'll see in Mayapur when they do the procession, the elephant procession in the winter, with the elephant, with Radha and Krishna on top. So the mahot has a little stick. It's only about this long, and it has a little hook. One hook goes one way and then another little hook the other way. And with this little stick, he's controlling the elephant. He's just tapping the elephant on the trunk. He can control that way. So that's another example. Something small can actually be very powerful. Kama kusuma dhanu sayakalin he shakala bhuvana apane basakin he. Armed with a bow and arrows of flowers, Cupid has brought the whole universe under subjection. Kamadev, Cupid. What does he have for weapons? Yes, he has a bow. What is the bow made of? It's made of a sugarcane stalk. And he has arrows which are made of flowers. Does that sound very dangerous? Shooting flowers with a sugarcane bow. Go out on the battlefield with your sugarcane bow and flowers. Well, in the hands of Cupid, of Kamadeva, this little, seemingly insignificant weapon is actually so powerful that he's able to subdue the entire universe. Realizing this, O good lady, give up all doubt. Rama, O queen, will assuredly break the bow. And in this way, the queen became reassured. And her depression, her despondency was gone. And her love for Sri Rama grew. So this is the future mother-in-law who is now becoming more and more inspired that, Rama indeed may be my son-in-law. Well, Sita, what's happening with Sita while all this is going on? She's looking repeatedly at Lord Rama, and she gathers her courage and starts to pray to, it says in this translation, the gods, Sura. Her eyes were filled with tears of love, and the hair on her body stood on end. She feasted her eyes to their fill on Sri Rama's beauty. But then the thought of her father's vow agitated her mind. She said to herself, "Alas, my father has made a terrible resolve, having no regard to good or evil consequences. The ministers are afraid. Therefore, none of them gives him good counsel." They don't want to say anything to Janaka Raj like, "Come on, chill out." "It is all the more pity that it should be so in a conclave of wise men." How unfortunate. While on this side stands the bow, harder than adamant. Adamant means diamond. On the other side we find the dark-complexioned prince of delicate frame and tender age. How then, O Lord, can I maintain my balance of mind? Is a diamond ever pierced with the pointed end of a shirisha flower? The sense of the whole assembly has become dull. Hence, my only hope now lies in you, O Shambhu's bow. She's now praying to the bow. Abba mohi Shambhu chapa gati tori nija jarata logangha paradhari hohi harwa raghupati hi nihari. My only hope lies in you, O Shambhu's bow, imparting your heaviness in jadata to the assembly. Grow light yourself so that you will be in proportion to the size of Rama. That's her prayer. Give up your weight and distribute your weight to all these people around here. Do something, get rid of your weight and just make it so it'll be in proportion to Rama. Sita felt much agitated at heart. An instant hung heavy on her as 100 yugas. Lava nimesha juga shai samaljahi. So it's a tense moment. And Tulsidas elaborates more on her mind, her heart. Summoning courage in her heart, she confidently said to herself, "If I am true to my vow in thought, word, and deed, and if my mind is really attached to the lotus feet of Sri Rama, I am sure the Lord who dwells in the heart of all will make me Sri Rama's bond slave. For one gets united without doubt with him for whom one cherishes true love." And then she glances at Lord Ram, and she becomes resolved to love him even at the cost of her life. Sri Rama, the embodiment of compassion, understood all this. There's no speaking going on. They have not yet spoken at all. Imagine potential, partners, husbands and wives. Before engagement, not even one word. Imagine that. So Rama understood her resolve. Looking at Sita, he glanced at the bow as Garuda, the king of birds, and the sworn enemy of serpents, would gaze on a poor little snake. So another nice analogy here. What does Garuda eat for breakfast? Snakes, yeah. Yum, yum, yum. So when he sees a snake, he says, yum, yum, yum. I think I'll have breakfast. So here the comparison is Rama looking at the bow. The bow is, in a sense, shaped like a snake. And so he's seeing in this way. And so he's seeing with the kind of confidence that Garuda would have at looking at a snake. This is no problem. Right? Tulsidas mentions that Lakshman notices that Rama is glancing at the bow of Shiva, of Hara, and the result of seeing this glance is that the hair on Lakshman's body stands on end. And he says the following, addressing various entities in the universe. O elephants guarding the cardinal points, O divine tortoise, O serpent king, and O divine boar, steadily hold the earth that it may not shake. Sri Rama seeks to break the bow of Shankara, therefore listen to my command and be ready. When Rama drew near to the bow, men and women present there invoked in his behalf the help of gods as well as of their past good deeds. The next is a very long sentence. It's hard to translate this, I suspect. Anyway, the doubts and ignorance of all who had assembled there, the arrogance of the foolish kings, the proud pretensions of Parashurama, the apprehension of gods and the great sages, the distress of Sita, King Janaka's remorse, and the fire of the queen's terrible agony, all these boarded together the great bark, which is an old-fashioned word for ship, the great ship of Shambhu's bow. with whose help they sought to cross the boundless ocean of Sri Rama's strength of arm. But there was no helmsman to steer the ship. So this is Tulsi. He loves to make these kind of extended images, analogies. So the image is now, he's shifted. A few seconds ago, the bow was compared to a snake. Now it's being compared to a ship. And all these various persons who have doubted that Rama can break the bow are climbing into this ship. Okay? They've all gotten into Shambhu's bow, so to speak. And they want to cross the boundless ocean of Rama's strength. So Rama's strength is compared to the boundless ocean. It's unlimited. But there was no helmsman, there was no captain to steer the ship. So everyone is basically holding their breath at this point. What's going to happen? Rama first looked at the crowd of spectators and found them motionless as the figures of a drawing. I wanted to mention, this is a very nice way to meditate on Ram Lila and also Krishna Lila, is you take some description, you take a passage, and you make it into a mental picture. You can make a whole collection of mental pictures, mental picture postcards, and you can store them in your heart. And in this way, you can choose these different pictures and appreciate them. So now, within Tulsi's description, he's saying it was just like a picture. Rama first looked at the crowd of spectators and found them motionless as the figures of a drawing. We're just at the point where Rama has not yet gone to pick up the bow in the Swayambara. And everyone is like this. The gracious, you've come at just the right time. The gracious Lord then turned his eyes toward Sita and perceived her in deep distress. He found Videha's daughter greatly agitated. Every moment that passed hung on her as a whole lifetime of the universe. And now we get some more analogies. If a thirsty man dies for want of water, for lack of water, of what avail, of what use is a lake of nectar to him once he is dead? So in other words, Sita is so distressed, what could possibly help her? What good is a shower of rain when the whole crop, the whole fields of corn or whatever are dried up? What use repenting over an opportunity lost? This is what Lord Rama is thinking. Thinking thus within himself, the Lord looked at Janaka's daughter and thrilled all over to perceive her singular devotion. So Rama is very inspired, seeing Sita in great agitation. What's going to happen? Is he going to lift? Because Sita has just prayed to the bow, please reduce your weight, distribute your weight to all the crowd, so that your weight will be appropriate for my Rama. Rama inwardly made obeisance to his preceptor. Who is Rama's preceptor? Yes, Vishwamitra. And took up the bow with great agility, with great, how would you say, what's agility? Ability. Physical ability is called agility in English. So he just took it and whoop, up it went. The bow gleamed, it was shining like a flash of lightning as he grasped it in his hand. And then it appeared like a circle in the sky. No one knew when he took it in his hands, when he strung it and drew it tight. Everyone only saw him standing with the bow drawn. Instantly Sri Rama broke the bow in halves. The awful crash resounded through all the spheres. So this is described in Valmiki Ramayana. His lifting the bow, stringing, putting an arrow to the bow, to the string, and then when he pulls back, the bow breaks. And when the bow breaks, also in the Valmiki Ramayana, there is the sound of a huge crash. Everything thunders and shakes. Tulsidas elaborates on the effect of this crash. Horses of the sun god strayed from their course. The elephants of the quarters, those 4 elephants that hold up the 4 directions, or 8 elephants, whatever, they trumpeted, the earth shook, the serpent king, Anantashesha, the divine boar, and the divine tortoise fidgeted about. Gods, demons, and sages put their hands to their ears, and all began anxiously to ponder the cause. But when they learnt, says Tulsidas, that Sri Rama had broken the bow, they uttered shouts of victory. Jayati Bachana Ucharahi. Jai Shri Ram. So everyone's very excited now. Except for those who were hoping to win Sita's hand. They're very upset. Actually, that's a little later. First we hear of Sita's reaction. Sita's delight could only be compared to that of a female chataka bird on receiving a raindrop when the sun is in the same longitude as the constellation named Swati. You know the constellation Swati?
Capricorn.
Oh, Capricorn.
It's in Capricorn.
Okay. Well, the footnote here says, Chataka bird will slake its thirst only with a raindrop obtained when the sun is in the same longitude as Capricorn, which, according to this, is generally in the month of October. But I thought it's January. Capricorn. Sun in Capricorn. Anyway. The sun in Capricorn. When does that happen? That's what I thought too. Here it's saying October.
It's Capricorn precedes
October is Libra.
Yeah, so this is wrong.
Oh, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe Swati is in Libra.
Okay, maybe it's a different constellation. Whatever. The point is that Sita was very happy. That's the point. Okay, more description of Sita in her joy. Her body shrank with modesty. Her heart was full of rapture. Her hidden love could not be perceived by others. As she drew near and beheld Sri Rama's beauty, Sita stood motionless as a portrait. Well, in other words, she became we would say in English, spaced out. She became stunned. She froze. She's going to garland Rama, but she just kind of goes and freezes. And so her friend says, invest the bridegroom with the beautiful wreath of victory. Give him the garland. So then she raised the garland with both her hands, but she was too overwhelmed with emotion to garland him. In this act, her uplifted hands shone as if a pair of lotuses with their stalks were timidly investing the moon with a garland of victory. At this charming sight, her companions broke into a song, while Sita placed the garland of victory around Sri Rama's neck so as to adorn his breast. Shri Shri Sita Ram Ki. So that's another picture postcard you can. Okay. So it kind of goes on and on about all this joyfulness. And then, as I mentioned yesterday, Parashuram appears. And there's some very interesting exchanges between Lakshman and Parashuram, which we won't go into because that's a different rasa. And we want to focus on Sita. Okay, that comes to the end of that file.
Did you ever see that movie called Sita's Wedding?
Yeah.
Is that based on Valmiki or Tulsi?
Probably it has a lot of Tulsi in it. Because there's not a whole lot of description of... For example, in Valmiki Ramayana, the moment Ram lifts the bow, the next thing you read or hear is that Janaka is saying, send for Dasharatha. Let's have a wedding. And so there's nothing about these emotions there. You don't hear anything about how Sita is feeling. It just says, get Rama. And then when Dasharatha comes, then there's this long passage in the beginning of the wedding, which Tulsidas only mentions in half a line, which is there's a recitation by Janaka of his family line, his dynasty. And it goes through all the names. And Dasharatha recites all the names of his line. But Tulsi's not interested in that. And probably he's taking the mood of Sita and Rama, who are also not really interested in that. And also of the audience, who are also not really interested in that. So he'll just mention it, and then he'll go on.
But in the Sita's wedding, I think it was somewhere it said that originally Sita had lifted the bow, but she was very small.
Yeah.
And on that basis, then Dasharatha, and then Janaka had decided that whoever married this girl
had to be able to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that now. I don't believe that's in either. Yeah, there are a lot of... There's an article by one scholar called 300 Ramayanas. And he's explaining how there's so many versions. So there's the Kamban Ramayana of Kamban from Tamil country. And there's so many others. Maharaj? Yeah. Yeah, that's also not there. The Ramayana, actually Prabhupada mentions that in that passage you read yesterday. Ramayana can mean two things. It can mean Valmiki Ramayana, or it can mean sort of the collective Ramayana. The Ramayana of everyone's memory, which can be a combination of what everyone hears from so many sources. That's one way of understanding. Sita's elegant form baffles all description. So poor is my wit, this is Tulsi speaking, and so surpassing her charm. When the members of the bridegroom's party saw Sita approach, a veritable storehouse of beauty and spotless in every way, all greeted her from the core of their heart. At the sight of Janaki, Sita, Rama had his heart's desire fulfilled. King Dasharatha, with all his other sons, was filled with delight. I've moved forward to now the wedding is about to happen and Dasharatha is present with his other sons. Who are his other sons? Bharata, Lakshmana, Shatrugna. Yes. The gods made obeisance and rained down flowers, while the sages uttered their benedictions, which were the source of all blessings. The songs that the ladies sang, combined with the sound of kettle drums, produced a loud symphony. Men and women both were lost in love and rejoicing. In this manner, Sita entered the pavilion while great sages recited propitiatory texts in great joy. The two family preceptors, Vasishta and Shatananda, performed all the religious rites and ceremonies and observed the family customs. Now there's mention here of women singing songs. This is very standard in Indian weddings. Am I correct? And these songs are typically, the subject of them can be very risque. They are making fun of the husband and wife to be in sort of, using sometimes very gross language. And it's understood that at this time, at a wedding, this is very auspicious. So apparently this was going on also at Sita and Rama's wedding. I believe this description from Tulsidas is used in present-day Hindu weddings. The description of this wedding is used as a kind of prototype. Okay, now a description of Rama, of his feet, because the father of the bride and his wife come to offer padyam, bathing the feet of Rama. So here we go. It's a meditation on Rama's feet. Okay? Are we ready for this? They began to love Sri Rama's lotus feet. Their whole frame was thrilled with emotion. The sounds of singing and kettle drums and shouts of victory in the heavens, as well as in the city, overflowed, as it were, in all directions. The lotus feet that ever sparkle in the lake of Shiva's breast, by thinking of which, even for once, the mind gets purified and all the impurities of the Kali age are driven away. By whose touch the sage Gautama's wife, who was full of sin, attained salvation. This is referring to Ahalya, who had been cursed to become stone until Rama touched her as they were traveling to Mithila. Whose nectar in the form of the river Ganga adorns Shambhu's head and is declared by the gods as the holiest of the holy, by resorting to which, with their bee-like minds, sages and mystics attain the goal of their liking. Sorry, these are long sentences. And that wasn't the end of the sentence. It is those very feet that the most lucky Janaka washed amidst shouts of victory from all corners. Joining the palms of the bride and the bridegroom, both the family priests recited the genealogy of the two families. Okay, so this is where there's simply a reference of the recitation of genealogies. Whereas in the Valmiki Ramayana, you get the whole genealogy.
Does it go back to Rama?
Well, it's going up to Rama. And it's going, all the way back because he is descended from Surya, right? Surya Vamsha. Yeah, so it goes all the way back from Rama back. Okay, I skip a little bit here and then. Okay, so the hands are joined of bride and bridegroom. And having gone through all the rites sanctioned either by the Vedas or by family usage, the glorious King Janaka gave his daughter to the bridegroom. And now we get some comparisons. As Himavan gave away Girija to the great Lord Shiva, and the deity presiding over seas bestowed Shri on Hari, so did Janaka give Sita to Rama, and thereby earned fair renown, fame, of an unprecedented character. Never before was there such fame. King Videha, Janaka, was unable to make any supplication. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't bow down. Since that prince, Sri Rama, of swarthy complexion, means dark complexion, had justified his name, Videha, by making him forget everything about his body. So Deha means body. Videha means out of body. And so King Videha, by giving his daughter to Rama, is now so excited that he's basically lost it. he's in too much ecstasy and he's out of his body, so to speak. She's Videhi, yeah. Okay. Ladies always like descriptions of weddings, so this is for the ladies. The bride and the bridegroom performed the circumambulation with charming paces. So now they're circumambulating the fire, while all present feasted their admiring gaze on the spectacle. The lovely couple was beyond description. Whatever comparison might be suggested would fall short of the reality. Lovely images of Rama and Sita were reflected on the pillars of jewels and shone as if love and his consort Rati witnessed Sri Rama's matchless wedding appearing in numerous forms. So picture, they're in the wedding hall and there are these pillars, and these pillars have these valuable gems, and the gems are all reflecting. And now Sita and Ram are circumambulating the fire, and as they go around, all these pillars are reflecting their images in all directions. So it is quite a, it's already enough dazzling one Sita and Ram, but now they're getting multiplied by these reflections, and everyone is amazed. Their curiosity and bashfulness were equally great. So Sita and Ram were curious about each other. They were interested in each other, and simultaneously they were bashful. And the amount of interest in each other and bashfulness was equal. That is why they revealed themselves and went out of sight again and again. So there's this, try to picture this image of walking around, these reflections are, and there's this appearing and not appearing going on. Very interesting, amazing image. Shri Shri Nitai Gora Nataraj Ki Jai. So, all of this, they're pacing around. Then Vishishta gave the direction, and the bride and bridegroom sat together on the same seat. So here is another picture postcard for your memory bank to put in the heart. You'll see many images of this in Indian calendar art. So if you can't imagine it, just go to India and go in any village. You'll probably see a picture of this hanging on somebody's wall in their hut. Sita and Ram together on the throne as the wedding is happening. Well, then it just goes on to describe that the three other sons of Dasharatha are also married, and they are married to the three sisters of Sita. And the three princesses, Mandavi, Shrutakirti, and Urmila, they were also dressed in bride's clothing.
Yes.
It seems that
Janaka was childed, didn't have a child,
Yeah.
and then he plowed the field, and then Sita came up.
Yes.
Where are her sisters?
Where did they all come from? Good question. I don't know. Maybe they fought. Maybe they also came up from the earth. Do you know anything about that?
No, I have
No.
no question.
Do you know anything about that? Where is Kratu Prabhu? He probably knows. Anyway, any of you Indian ladies? You all know these things. Mataji, do you know? The three other daughters of Janaka.
These two, Mandavi and Shrutakirti was his brother's daughter. Janaka's brother's daughter.
Oh, Janaka's brother's daughters. Okay. Oh, actually that's mentioned here. The eldest daughter of his younger brother, Kushaketu. Ah,
Aha.
it's all there. Gave in marriage to Bharata after performing the Rada. Yes. Janaki's... it just says Janaki's younger. Janaki is Sita. Well, it doesn't mention that she is the daughter of Kushaketu. But anyway, let's assume they're daughters of Kushaketu. If they weren't, they should have been. Sorry. Huh? Valmiki expression? Yeah, yeah. The bright-eyed and fair-faced princess Shrutakirti, who was a mine of all virtues and was well known for her beauty and amiability, the king gave to Ripu Sudana. I guess that would be Shatrugna. When each pair of bride and bridegroom saw that they were well matched with each other, they felt shy but rejoiced in their heart of hearts. And there's a note here explaining that Rama and Bharata they had a dark complexion, and they were married respectively to Sita and Mandavi, both of whom had fair complexion. Lakshmana and Shatrugna had a fair complexion, and they were married with Urmila and Shrutakirti, both of whom had dark complexions. And according to Tulsidas, they were all very happy with this arrangement. Okay, so Sita and Ram were married, and they lived happily ever after, right?
Yes. In Ayodhya, in the spiritual world.
Yeah, well, but aside from that, so we will, not tomorrow, the next day, we'll begin, we're not getting very far, but we'll enter into Ayodhya Kanda, and I think we'll hear about how Sita persuades Rama that he has to allow her to go with him to the forest. So stay tuned for that. Yes.
Well, I have a new question, which I'd rather hear the answer to than the other one. So, this also applies to. This question also applies to Krishna Lila. So, the associates of Lord Ram. The associates of Lord Ram, in their pastimes on the earth, do they have spiritual bodies or material bodies? Obviously, Lord Ram and Sita, their bodies are spiritual here on the earth.
Shuddha Sattva is the technical term, as I understand. The Lord's body consists of Shuddha Sattva, and certainly he and his associates, whether as Krishna, as Rama, certainly it's understood. That is their constitution. But this subject is not, to my knowledge, discussed either by Valmiki or Tulsidas. But it would be discussed in there's another version called the Adhyatma Ramayana. The Adhyatma Ramayana, unfortunately, tends to be rather Advaitic. So I haven't studied the Adhyatma Ramayana, but I believe that's very much the focus. There is, it's more philosophical. Unfortunately, the wrong philosophy. to a large extent. I mean, there's still, some bhakti, some sort of bhakti. Nirguna bhakti, I don't know. Do you want to comment on that question? Do you want to comment on the spiritual?
Well, it doesn't really matter, because because even after, according to the Valmiki Ramayana, after Sita had gone into the forest, then Lord Ramachandra installed for the sacrifices a Sita made out of gold, which was the same as...
at the end,
which is the same as Sita. So Krishna's deity form, or Krishna himself, or Sita's deity form, makes no difference. They're exactly the same.
What about their associates?
Their associates is the same. Anyone who's... Now you have probably gives the example of a gold box and a golden box. So we can understand this. A gold box is one thing, and a golden box is something else. In other words, there may be a golden cover. But for the associates, it says somewhere that the associates of Lord Ramachandra from Ayodhya went back to the spiritual world along with Lord Ramachandra in their self-same bodies. So that would indicate that the residents Vrindavan of Ayodhya, when Lord Ramachandra appeared, essentially they were all in their spiritual bodies. But then again, in Dwarka, we have personalities who don't seem like they're 100% spiritual. There's a division amongst them. Some of them, like Satyajit, probably didn't appear in the spiritual body. Tasena, and we have a whole bunch of others.
Yeah. Krishna, Rama. One interesting phenomenon in modern day India, I mentioned yesterday, there's this tradition of Ram Leela. They perform all over India, but especially in a place called Ramnagar, just across the Ganga from Varanasi. And they go for 1 month performing the Ramcharitmanas. And I haven't seen, but I've read about how they move the venue to different parts of town. And when, on the occasion when Rama goes to the forest, then they go to the forest. They actually leave town, and all the audience, in effect, become the residents of Ayodhya, who are saying, Ram, don't go. So everybody is following Ram. So there's very much this mood that when they're performing, actually this relates to the question, those who are performing Sita and Ram, they are considered non-different from Sita and Ram and associates also, and therefore they become worshipable. And you'll see this in Vrindavan with these Ras Leela groups, these troops of small children They're all boys, no girls, who perform they perform Krishna Lila. And at the end of the performance, Radha and Krishna, who are two little boys, or not so little anymore, usually they're early teenage, they'll be sitting on the throne and people will come up and offer worship and donations. And usually by that time, because the performance has been going on for at least 3 hours, the two boys are pretty tired and they're kind of looking a little bored by the whole thing. When can we get out of here and have some ice cream or whatever? But that understanding is there, that they're Radha and Krishna or Sita and Rama, etc. But I was going to say another interesting phenomenon. In the late 1980s, one television producer, they made a series of episodes of Ram Leela, which were showing on the national Indian television station Doordarshan every Sunday morning for more than a year. And this became so popular that people reported basically, I mean, it was Sunday morning, which is anyway a quieter time, but basically India shut down during that. I mean, everyone, everything just stopped because everyone wanted to watch. And in the villages where in those days hardly anyone had a television set, maybe one person in the village has a television set. So he would bring it out and set it up on a table, and they would decorate the television set like an altar. They would put a garland or more than one garland around it and vases, and then when Sita and Rama were there, they would do arti. And when it was getting near the end of the sequence, everybody knows the story, but it's getting near the end. People got an anxiety. It's going to be over. What are we going to do? So the producer actually extended the story. He slowed it down so that each episode was just, Rama takes 2 steps, and then again something happened, and again, 3 steps. So they extended it several weeks that way. Yes, Mark.
As far as the other question goes, in the Prabhupada's commentary in the Krishna book, he mentions that when the gopis went out to dance with Krishna, that their physical bodies were in the bed with their husband. And therefore no one could criticize Krishna for dancing with other people's with other people's wives, because the wife's body, which belonged to the husband, was still there with their husbands, and the spiritual forms, which belonged to Krishna, went out to dance with him. So in that sense we can understand also that, at least in the case here, it was indicated that the gopis were in a spiritualized body, and their spiritual bodies could actually leave their spiritual bodies and go and dance with Krishna. Also it says that the wives of the Jagat Brahmins, one of them which was not allowed to go and join with Krishna, just like one of the gopis, that she, due to her intense meditation, she left her body and went back to join Krishna. So there's also a commentary by the Acharyas that not all the gopis actually were fully mature. The ones that were fully mature were allowed to go out and dance with Krishna in the rasa dance. And those who were not fully mature, they were kept back until their bhava developed to the point of full maturity, at which point they were allowed then, either by leaving their spiritual bodies, or Yogamaya allowed them to go in the future to go and dance with Krishna.
In any case, all desires were fulfilled. Maharaj, the microphone for...
Just a little anecdote on what you said about the Doordarshan. There was a couple incidents reported how much people were absorbed so much in the Leela while watching it there's at least one report that I know of. One man actually left his body in separation when Sita was banned to the forest. Because he got so much emotionally involved in the whole Leela that he actually became part of the Leela.
There you go.
Another story was one police officer stopped one car which was driving wrongly, and he looked in the car and there was the actress who played Mother Sita. So he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mother Sita. You can, no problem. You can go.
You can go whichever way you want.
So
we will follow you."
This is India.
Yeah, this is India. Prabhupada said you just scratch the surface in India, and that that devotion is there, that bhakti.
Really deep.
Okay, we will continue. Thank you all very much. I think it's lunchtime now. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
His Grace Krishna Kshetra Prabhu ki Jai. Jai Shri Ram. Evo samo još jedna dobrodošlica svima baktama što ste došli u takvom velikom številu. Nismo vas očekivali, jako smo sretni, tako dobrodošli ovdje. Nadam se da ostanete do kraja s nami, ali uz to vas molim za, kako da kažem, prasada mi imamo ga puno, ali moguće da neće biti ga toliko puno da dobijemo svi puno, tako da molim za razumijevanje da dobiju naprije malo svi, a onda kad ostane možemo dobiti repete, tako da dobijemo svi, barem malo. Može? Ok, to je to. Ne zaboravite, seminar danas u 3:15 na temu Atlas u glavi, što imamo nešto da se može pokrenuti, neki seminar u vezi sa zdravljem je, tako da možeš ti doći malo, dođi ovamo pa će više reći, da.
Hare Krishna. Moje ime je Šrila Spani Das. Znači ne samo vezano za Atlas, nego